ultimately, I consider myself retired in terms of Christian music. I think that
If you're retired, then you're here. So it's kind of
this is my first Cornerstone since 1992.
wow.
Yeah. I wanted to come back home last time and see Rose Band and some family, not family, but friends and people that I knew here.
Interesting.
Kind of say that I did that. I love Cornerstone. I just love the vibe of the whole thing. But
As many do.
Huh?
As many of us do.
Yeah. Well, but after I stopped being a label, it didn't make sense to me to spend a lot of money flying out here and doing it. Yeah. Thank you very much. And we have a cross cake here.
We have a cross funnel cake.
Cannot wait to taste them. That's a real sketchy history. I'm sure there's more questions you can actually ask. But,
right. It's kind of hitting the surface, but it's very much appreciated.
Why I got started initially, because the very first Christian music I got exposed to would have been like the first two Maranatha albums and the Way Can It Be album. When I was like in my preteen days. The joke with that was that I found somebody had taped those on a cassette, and I used to go to thrift stores and buy used cassettes for like a nickel or something, because it was cheaper than going to the store and buying new ones, and I could take it home and erase it. So I took that home, and I'm going, well, this is pretty good music, except for the Jesus stuff. It kind of sucks. So I erased it, but that was my initial introduction to that. And later, it became Larry Norman, as it was for a lot of us. And a roommate that I had at the time had street level, had bootleg on 8-track. We used to pop it in the car and drive around. Larry was a big influence on me at that point. I mean, he was one of the tools used to actually get me to really commit to becoming a Christian. Whereas before I'd kind of played around with it, but through the people that I met at the time in this church and the music that was being given to me, kind of opened doors, spiritually. And so that's probably how it started. And then when I moved to Eugene, Oregon, and started collecting the stuff and finding the stuff, that's when it kind of hit me that there was no real network of out there to where you could connect with other people looking for the same thing. And so that's how Alternative started. Also back then, Alternative was also a concert promotion company as well, so I put on a lot of shows back then. Petra, Servant, all these different tours. So I did that. I had a radio show as well, and the premise of the show was to play things you couldn't find anywhere. So it's all like this rare, Christian music from all over the planet, and it was fun to do. I mean, for fans, it's probably irritating because they call them like, "That's really great. Can I get it?" No.
It's unavailable.
It's unavailable. I would play imports, and those were available, and then I could tell them where to find them, which is me, essentially, But that was fun to do. So really, I've done a lot of different aspects of this thing. Radio. I wrote reviews and did press stuff and ran a label and managed artists and all that. So I kind of had my hand in almost every little facet you can think of. Alternative actually twice was nearly picked up for major label distribution, initially by RCA and then Columbia, or Capitol actually. And both of those fell through at the last minute. The first time was because the guy that was heading the deal took off with about $100 grand of advance money, and that kind of killed it. But at the time, they were going to actually give me an office in Seattle, put out all my stuff. I was going to do A&R for BMG, and they loved the 70s, they loved Robert Vaughn, and they wanted to actually put that stuff out. And unfortunately, the deal imploded. When I did the River House album with Robert Vaughn, Capitol wanted to put that out as a alternative slash, capital piece. In the end, that deal didn't go through, and then Sony came in, and they signed Robert directly, and then they basically stole him from me. And their attorneys were, bigger and taller than my attorneys, and so I lost that project. I don't know if you ever heard that album, the Riverhouse album.
I haven't.
I thought that was an amazing record.
Yep.
And it still holds up.
Yeah. I got both.
It predated the whole Americana thing by a few years. I think if that scene had been around, it would have been great. So the history, is a little weird. It's like I nearly backdoored it from my garage to the major label thing, almost overnight, which I thought was just hilarious, that I could do that. But it didn't happen. But in the end, I'm mostly just proud of the music and the tons of letters I used to get back then, pre-internet days. People just writing to say how affected they were by certain things. I mean, there was a woman who wrote me, one of the last things her father and her did before he committed suicide was listen to Lost Horizon. And they were into this one particular song, which right now escapes me. But it really touched him, it touched his heart, touched her, and so they wrote me about that. Ultimately, it didn't save him from killing himself, but those kind of moments, I used to get letters like that all the time. And it was really humbling because he just had, he just sitting here just releasing stuff and you don't really think about how it played out there once it got into people's hands.
Right.
And that part was always amazing to me, And I wasn't even the artist, and it was just, but just to be in that, just to be part of that was cool.